All right, let's take a look at this factoring problem. We want to factor it out, okay? For this one, first thing we're going to do, as always, we always need to check to see, do we have a GCF? Okay, so always step number one, step number one is always going to be check for a GCF, no matter what, okay? If you need to write out the steps while you're factoring, that is totally fine. You always want to check for a GCF first, okay? If we look right here, not all of them have an X, not all three terms have an X, so we can't factor out an X. And if we look at the numbers, 5, 11, and 12, the biggest number we can pull out of there is 1. So we don't have a GCF, don't have to worry about that. Now we need to find our magic numbers, okay? No matter which method you use to solve this, you're going to find your magic numbers, okay? So find magic numbers. That's the next step. Sorry, that M is really whoppy jawed. We gotta find our magic numbers, okay? To do that, we're gonna make our little cross thing. On the top, we've got our A times our C value. So A times C, that's gonna give me 5 times -12, that's -60. And then on the bottom, we have our B. Remember, B is for bottom, so 11 goes on the bottom. We need two numbers that multiply to give us -60 and add to give us +11. If you need to list out your factor pairs, you can. So -60, that's 1 and -60, 2 and -30, 3 and -20, okay? And if you can't do these in your head, that's okay, but you've just got to list them out. You can use your calculator. 4 and -15, 5 and -12 is a pair, 6 and -10. 7 is not going to work. It's going to give you a decimal, so you can't do that one. If we divide it by 8, that is not going to work either. And if we divide it by 9, that is not going to work either. It's going to give us another decimal. So then we know we can divide it by 10 because we already have a 10 right here. So that means that all these pairs right here are all of our factor pairs that are possible. However, if you look at this, we don't have a pair that adds to be +11. So we also have an identical set that's very similar to this. The only difference is that instead of, let me change it to this color. Instead of having our 1 be positive, we have -60 over here. We've also got -1 and +60. Those two multiply to give us -60 as well, okay? So we can take our list right here and just change all the signs. -2 and +30, -3 and +20, -4 and +15, and -5, +12, -6, +10. Now, oops, sorry about that 10, y'all. All right. Now, once we go through, we can find a pair that will add up to be +11. And it's this pair right here. We've got -4 and +15, -4 and +15. Okay. Now I'm going to erase a little bit. I'm going to erase these factor pairs. Okay. So don't bother. Don't mind me. This is just me erasing. The next thing that we need to do, the next step of the process, is we either need to split and group or draw our box. I'm going to draw the box first, but I'm also going to show it with split and group after that. So if you prefer split and group, stay tuned. And since you're teaching your group this, you might want to know both anyway. So our step 3, I'm going to draw my box. Okay, I'm going to start with my box, and then we're going to go through it that way. Okay, so when I draw my box in the top left corner, I'm going to use my first term. So my 5x squared goes here. Then in my bottom right corner, that's where my C value goes, my -12, your last term. Okay, those two go in those spots. Then for my other two spots, I'm going to use my magic numbers. So I've got -4 and +15. -4x is going to go here, +15x is going to go here. It doesn't matter which one goes in which space, it's going to work the same way. Now what we need to do is take the GCF of each row and the GCF of each column. So this top row, we don't have a number that we can factor out, but we can factor out an x. Then in this bottom row, the greatest common factor is going to be 3 because they're both divisible by 3, +3. Then
Kevin Osborne, please spell 4, 1103. Kevin Osborne, 4, 1103.
Sorry, y'all, I'm filming this after school, so sorry about the announcement. Okay, then if we look at the columns, this column right here with the 5x squared and the 15x, we can factor out a 5, and we can also factor out an x because they're both divisible by 5 and they both have an x. Then if we look at this last column, we've got a negative 4x and a negative 12. Because our first term is a negative, that means we have to factor out at least the negative, but they're also both divisible by 4, so we're going to factor out a 4 as well. Now, since we've got our columns and our rows, we are ready to write our equation in factored form. We've got 5x minus 4 as one of our pairs, and then our next piece is x plus 3, okay? That's our next piece. This is how you write it in factored form, okay? And it's always, always, always going to work no matter what your situation is, okay? If you use that box, even if you could use a trick, this will work 100% of the time as long as you have an x squared in there, okay? So if you have trouble with the tricks, then don't worry about the tricks. Do it this way or with the splitting group. I'm gonna showcase the splitting group now, okay? So I'm gonna erase some stuff real quick. Give me just a second. Ooh, that find the magic numbers is a little rough, okay? The first two steps are the same. We're gonna find our magic numbers the same way. So we're gonna end up with the same numbers for our magic numbers. Let me just draw that in again, just so we remember. Our magic numbers, on top we've got negative 60, and on the bottom we had 11. So to get there, we're going to need negative 4 and 15. Those are our magic numbers. Now, for our next step, for step number 3, hopefully this one won't be as ugly as we had before. For step number 3, we're going to split the middle term. Split the middle term. Okay. Now this one is a little bit more conceptual than what we have with the box, so it may connect with you a little bit better. We're going to split the middle term. And when we do that, we're going to take 5x squared, leave it how it is. Then in the middle, we're going to put a minus 4x and a plus 15x. And it doesn't matter what the order is, but you've just got to put it like this. And then the minus 12, of course, at the end. All we did was we split up this 11 into 2 pieces like that. Okay, it's got a negative 4x and a positive 15x. If we were to combine like terms, it would go back to what it was. Okay, so we're not changing anything. Okay, our next thing that we need to do after that, we need a group. Okay, so for step, not 3, for step 4, we need a group. And then we need to find the GCF of each group. So this first group is these first 2 terms, and we've got these second 2 terms. Okay. So group and find the GCF. So if we look at our first group, we've got 5x squared minus 4x. We can factor an x out of that. We can't factor anything else, but we can factor out an x. When we do that, we've got 5x minus 4 left. Okay. Then if we look right here, we've got 15x and a negative 12. We can factor out a 3 there. Okay. And then what we're left with is a 5x minus 4 again. You'll notice that we've got a pair of twins here. So if we were to rewrite this pair of twins right here, we've got 5x minus 4. That's going to be one of our pairs for our factored form. And then our other one is going to be whatever our leftovers are. So x plus 3. Okay, and that's how you write it. If this makes more sense to you than the box method, then you should do it this way. Okay, hopefully that helps. Let me stop.